go. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see if people from the Discord will come through to this right now, because this is always random. But I have not really woken up, so I'm actually going to brew some coffee. I have the espresso machine on. Wow, that's crazy. And then I am also going to open up some stuff. So I do have a fair bit of things that I can open up today. Eventually, I think we're gonna do some stuff with these things. Do things. I have no words. I don't know what to say anymore because it's too early, and nothing. I'm not awake. But we got the package from melodrip from Ray, and I'm going to open it up and I'm going to brew stuff. And we do have a bunch of coffees. There are so many very interesting coffees to kind of brew today. So hopefully this will be fun for anybody who also has these coffees. And I think what I want to kind of do today, well, I'm thinking about it, is I have a few different coffees. I know some of you guys got this one. So this is the El Burro Lot 17 washed. Esmeralda. Say Esmeralda. I'll put this here. You guys can still see it. And of course this coffee. I am thinking about doing this coffee. Maybe, we'll see how we're feeling. Mainly because I wanted to taste this coffee with Robert because he was there with me. So he, knows what the coffee tastes like. But we still have about 20 something grams of I was right about to drop that, of the sample. So I want to taste the sample next to this because I was quite impressed by the sample. So definitely probably need to get, Harry and Robert here because they tasted this coffee with me. So yeah, those are kind of the thoughts right now. But I also have like the entire Say Sub that we that I know some of you guys got. But kind of like the plan is, and I need to do this, is we'll open up this box and go from there. I'm pretty confident that there are some goodies in here that we can play around with the stream today. But yeah, this was sent to me by Ray of melodrip. So pretty cool, especially, having these like West Coast coffee product companies, which are, literally a handful. I'll open it up. I like to save these unboxings for anybody who is also curious about the things that I end up with, which I end up with too much shit, because that's how it is. So, what do we have? Ooh, okay. We have the column. So, Ray's gonna get some more of these columns in, I think, at the end of the year. So, I think anybody who wants to get a column, you'll be able to get it later. But he sent me, I think, B stock. So, like, older, blemishes and whatnot. I have no idea. So, this is, yeah, okay, cool. So, this is the column. So now, officially, I'm part of the Cool Kids Club. I was not cool before because I wasn't like Harry. Harry had the column. He was an OG backer of the column. And now I am also part of the same club. So sent that, and I'm just gonna, let me put this down, guys. We'll open things up. Opening things up is fun, right? This is what everybody is into nowadays. Set things aside. I think you guys can see the stuff here, because the way I'm trying to figure the stream setup out is we're like, do this pour stuff here, do this espresso stuff back here. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we have a column now. Oh my god, we are cool now. We are absolutely in the club. So these are the filters. Actual column. What else do we have? This is the This is the technology. Oh my god. I'm now cool. We have an actual melodrip. And then, okay, there's more stuff here. Small business, packing things. Very hard. Okay, he sent me the little melodrip glass stick things, which I don't know if you guys can see. Glass sticks. Another melodrip. Okay, so he sent me just like a lot of melodrips. Okay, we'll open things up, guys. We'll explore. We'll brew with things. So I think the reason why I haven't really explored a lot of melodrip brewing is, well, one, I didn't have one until like now. And second of all, I have always not been the greatest fan of like very low agitation brews. Well, like in the context of agitation, right? Like melodrip agitation is a lot lower than kettle agitation, or it's a different type of agitation. And to me, like, it's kind of like this. This is the next level brewer, not the pulsar, but it's like this type of, you know, I'm saying these things as I'm not awake, but to me it just like doesn't taste as interesting. It's like a little too clear, a little too harmonious. So what was interesting to me about the column, which we will open, it was that the column actually has very interesting properties. Here, I'll change the title. And more. So it's fun because it's that lower agitation style brew, or like, you know, I would say high clarity. And that seems to work really well in the high ratios. So low bypass, high ratios. Sometimes a little too tied together, a little too like, you know, harmonious of a brew, but I would say that that's why I wasn't really, like, I just wasn't that big of a fan of some of those brewers. Okay, so he sent more melodrip. I mean, some of this stuff might be for Harry, so, you know, we might give him some. I'm so glad you're as cool as Harry. Yeah, you're right. Tragedy. So I know Harry wanted some stuff, and maybe he'll steal from this. This seems like the column part of the column. Yep, got the column. Okay, we are actually cool now. Then, what is this? Oh, cool, and the little mini dripper. So this is a little cute v60 looking type of thing. So, okay, we now have a column. We have the goodies, and I will brew coffee with it. We'll explore together. So, obviously, the last few times I've done this, I think did he send me, wow, did he actually just send me 2 of these? That's crazy. Wow, Ray, you're very generous. Or maybe he sent me the box. Maybe there's like a box in here, and then there isn't anything in here. No, wow, okay. Here, we'll look at the instructions, guys. We don't know what we're doing. Oh, this is very cool. I've never how do I do this without breaking things? Okay, so we got the stick. I actually think he just sent me straight up two versions of everything. Because I mean, I'm sure he has like some of these laying around, and he's gracious enough to give us some of them. Look at this. Imagine making a coffee product and actually including recipes. This is an unheard of thing. Many people don't do that anymore. So yeah, okay. Maybe we will give this away. Because I don't need duplicates of everything. Or someone in the Bay Area will get something. Okay. All right. That's very cool. Okay, so this is a melodrip. I mean, there's like a duplicate of it here. So you get the stick, and you get the actual melodrip. I know he was low on stock of column because obviously like there were a bunch of people who backed the column, and he's very particular about like, you know, the quality of stuff. So this is here. We'll open this up, and then we'll use the one that he sent in the smaller bags because yeah. Imagine actually having recipes and instructions. This is unheard of. Wow, this is very cool. This is like a very good user experience. There are actually things, instructions, and all of that on how to do this. Look at this. And there's like a stick in here. So he's got the glass stick for wow. So we got the stick, we got another ring. I'm not gonna really open this because I think I might hand this off to somebody. Wow. So, okay, I have a duplicate of this. So maybe one of you in the Discord will get this. We'll find it out. Cool. We might turn on the Discord memberships and do some giveaways. So at most things behind me are going to be up for grabs because I don't need so much stuff. And I think it feels like I have enough people where I can offload things to the great community. But I just need to make sure that we can cover for shipping because there are some of you who live in the middle of nowhere. Okay, great. So we have melodrip, regular melodrip. I have not looked at chat at all. We have the column. This should be steel. And then glass. So this is like all metal. So basically the idea with this was it's like, I mean, obviously you have a paper filter with this, is that you get no bypass because we have a column, and all of that water is going to touch the coffee. But because there's no valve and there's no like, you know, you don't run into this thing where this my S works. But okay, I have a switch here. So for example, with a lot of these like low bypass brewers, obviously this is the greatest one of all of them, is that when you steep or when you hold things, the extraction, like my understanding is the extraction efficiency is very strong. Like, you know, you just do the bloom and you can mega extract things. But the challenge with all of this is the timing. And obviously we're not talking about like grinders and all this other shit, but like basically it's like if you steep for too long, you suddenly get a very muddy cup. So it's kind of like a game of how long you steep things for. So that's kind of like the big thing with a big part of why I'm a little annoyed at like the pulsar at times is that I feel like the pulsar, if you let it steep for literally like 5 extras, like you just forget about it. You end up with a very muddy cup. I mean, a good cup, but like slightly muted and muddier. And then in addition to that, because it's like a flat bottom, it's like AeroPress. Basically, to me, you can make next level pulsar taste like a super defined AeroPress. The acidity is really nice. Like basically the reason why the pulsar is super interesting in my opinion, or like in terms of like flavor profile, is that it is like, I think you can make probably the clearest cups of coffee with it, but just because it's clarity, high clarity, and maybe just like how I'm brewing things, it is almost a little too boring. Like it's like a very sterile brew, which I know is what a lot of people want. But personally nowadays I prefer much more dynamic. So like I don't really use a shower screen much with the pulsar, or like through the entire pour. Although like that's the entire idea with it, right? So this is interesting because this isn't valved. This, and also the flow should be like through this cone. So you kind of get like, it definitely is not, to me, like as mega ultra clear as pulsar is, but it's more interesting to drink. And to me, it's like more enjoyable because it has some of that like cone shape dynamics, but you know, I have a bunch of these. So we're going to do some cool stuff on the Discord at a later date. So we'll give away some of these guys. But I think I'm going to need to turn on some of these membership things, because like Discord membership, like people have been asking. I know some of you guys have been asking about the memberships for a while, or like server boosting and whatever. And yeah, I have to sort that out. But I know we got to give people some of the roles, and I know people want to pay for some of this stuff, which is like wild to me. But you know, you're welcome to donate and pay money and get on the get on the server boosting or like the membership stuff. But I mean, basically, I just don't want to feel bad when I ship something to one of you guys who lives in the middle of nowhere if you win something. But you know, I can't imagine that many people like getting in on this stuff. So your chances are probably pretty high, because there's a lot of shit to like get rid of. Like I just, you know, you guys have seen stuff. Like I only literally use a handful of items. Mostly like, you know, I use like this. They're like, you guys can't even see it here. Wait, I can lower the table. Actually, I can't, because there's a motorized Pharos under here. Holy shit, I could give away the motorized Pharos. But it's like, you know, I just want to cover the shipping on all this stuff. That's like the main pain point with a lot of this. Anyway, okay, cool. So we have the melodrip. I will just do, okay, this might be an interesting video, or stream clip, is this, okay, here, we'll do it this way. This is the antithesis. Is that the right word? This is the polar opposite to how I brew V60. So this is the Lance at Say brew V60 method, is you do this. So you actually can probably do like basically the same. Here, we'll brew coffee. Is my method of brewing V60 is very different than Lance's version. Say Lance, to clarify. Or like a lot of, or like even you know, Ray from melodrip and all of that, obviously, right? So the thing that, like, when I do V60 or when I brew Say, like my entire thought process is, I think kind of back to my first experiences at that shop, and it's like mega in front, you know, loud, vibrant, bright coffees. And my entire thought process with like brewing these coffees is I want to just take a lot of this acidity and kind of like not necessarily compress it, but like push it up front, because that's like my experience with drinking some of these really beautiful coffees, is like that is what makes Say interesting. And then so maybe we'll brew some Vario here. So oh yeah, wow, the last time I talked about V60 in like a video, we did Vario, so we'll do this. So that's kind of was like the initial thought process, is how do I take what is already very interesting in this coffee and kind of push it all the way up front? And what I in my experience, and you know, I have had no, you know, like this is just in pure practical experience of just brewing a lot of coffee, I find that the faster you pour, the longer blooms that you do, a lot of that shifts a lot of the acidity up front. So when you taste these coffees, say like on a coffee like this Esmeralda, it says orange blossom, jasmine, lavender, right? Like you get that initial hit of acidity up front. Like, you know, it's very interesting. Like, oh, that is what is interesting and makes this coffee, you know, complex or beautiful, or you know, has vibrancy and all of that. So that's like was the initial thought process. However, if you are chasing extraction yields, and if you want to brew V60 in like kind of a very different way, this is the opposite direction, where you brew with something like melodrip or pulsar or all of that, and the entire idea is to create a very harmonious brew and hope that the acidity in the coffee, or you know, basically the thought is, if we brew in a very transparent way, because our coffees are so expressive, there should be the dynamics. So it's dynamics from the coffee versus dynamics from the brew, if that makes sense. And the brew is relatively transparent, right? It's not, you're not imparting much dynamics or, you know, pouring, because coffee's dumb in the sense that how I pour water on this will, and what brewer I use and all that will impart things. But because you need to serve the drink to somebody, or you want to drink it, right, you can't just put it in a cupping bowl, right? You still want to have a filter of some sort. So this is kind of that version with utilizing something like this. Is it's lower agitation, but you're letting the coffee shine, right? The entire idea is let's let the coffee shine and see what happens. So maybe I will cut this out into and put this as a YouTube video for those of you guys to watch. And we'll see. Is the columns column smaller than the pulsar's column? Yes. So let's go ahead and brew. It has been a while since I have brewed V60 in this way, so hopefully we do a good job. But as with all of these tools and all of these different methods of brewing, a very cool thing is you can combine all of them and you can find the best version of everything. But this is kind of just a very different way of brewing coffees like this. Extract very, very high. Obviously depends on the grinder, on the coffee, so on and so forth. But you can extract very, very high, and it'll taste quite different than my V60 recipe. So that's the whole point. You know, recipes are recipes, and they're very fun. So here is what you need to do. And let me see if I can dial this in, because it has been a while since I've brewed this, but we will explore this together. So I'm going to use David Barrio. Let me see if I have the card somewhere here. The card is somewhere here. David Barrio. Quite an amazing coffee. So this is a washed churroso from Colombia. And it has flavor notes of, it says lively acidity, ripe peach, and berry-like complexity. So I'm not going to brew my version of V60 for the stream because you guys already know it and you guys have already you guys have already tried this out a lot. But we'll brew the melodrip style, or we'll brew this very different style, which is, you know, lower agitation that uses this. But we are still using agitation, just a different type of agitation. So it's, instead of really like if you think about the cone, instead of the kettle going like the stream water going like really into here, we are kind of agitating the top bit more. So you get, you know, percolation effect, right? If those are the words. I think those are the words. I'm not awake, but yeah, that's kind of the thought process. Is it's just very different. Is we're going to really basically in the cup, it's like we're going to try to like stretch things out. We're going to try to stretch things out and make a very harmonious cup. And we're going to hope the acidity is what gives the cup kind of dynamics versus pushing up the acidity or changing the balance of the cup due to pouring structure. So let's try to brew some of this. 15 grams in this example. And we're going to target kind of the same ratios. I think what you will find that's quite interesting with this type of brew method is because you can go and manipulate the fines in something like a V60. So the thought process is like basically I can go around. Like I can control I can control a variety of things. So obviously I can control how fast I pour into here. And then second of all, I can control the distance. So this controls agitation. And then I can also control the kind of angle or you know where I'm pouring. So I can basically push fines around the cup. I can do a lot of different things here. So you have it's a different type of, you know, workflow and definitely results in a very clean cup. So yeah, I've been rambling on a lot, but you know, this is what happens when we don't have coffee. So yeah, you're gonna use the melodrip here. We also will utilize one of the sticks because I find that, and this is a big reason why I use this thing, which, you know, why I use the leaf, is mainly I think agitation, like physical agitation, wet WDT during bloom, it makes these coffees taste really good. It really helps get a lot of that initial acidity out. I have no idea why, like chemically why that happens. But that's interesting. So yeah, I'm using 15 grams, and because we're using something like the melodrip, we actually can grind very fine. Like you can get away with grind sizes that are like pretty crazy, like pretty crazily fine, because you can always like basically manipulate the fines around. So like obviously this depends on grinder you're using, because every grinder is going to create a different amount of fines. But it's like it feels like you can get away with just like way finer grinds than what you should be able to get away with. So yeah, and then this is set to 100. So because we have kind of two like we basically have to pour water into here. What am I doing? Yeah, pour water into here, and then we also have to pour water, and then it has to go through here. You will lose some temperature. So if you have a very, very lightly roasted coffee, it benefits to use the hotter temperature to kind of compensate for that. If you had something that really needs, like, you know, the mega extraction. Okay. Let me get some water. Might need to make sure this camera doesn't overheat. Let me plug this little fan in for the camera. Okay, so I have no idea what grind size I'm using, but I'm grinding a little finer than what I would usually grind for. And I'm using V60, and I'm using Cafec T90s. And I'm just gonna grind on the max that's behind me because, you know, it's right there. But it doesn't really, or we could grind with the X Bloom, you know, I don't know. There's like a lot of different ways to do this, but I think this is a good example. The max would be a good example where I have no overhead camera right now. I'm sorry, guys. I was too lazy to set up the overhead camera. So yeah. And I will catch up on chat one day. One day I will read the chat. But for now we're doing more important things like brewing V60. Actually, here I'll use the X Bloom. I will use the studio, so we all can have like numbers, because the max is a little too it's too far away, and this is so that other people can try it at home. So I like 120 RPM on the studio. I think it creates the most interesting cup. However, if our goal is maximum clarity, which is what I think these low agitation recipes do a great job at, we should use the lower RPM on this grinder. So grind the coffee. I think something like, 54 seems fine. We probably could get away with even doing something like 50. Let's do like 52. So this to me is definitely on the finer side for this, I think, at least. We need some water. So this is the strategy is we just cut out clips from the stream and we provide the VODs, right? This is the technology. So I'm boiling water. This is 52, yeah. Which actually, depending on how your brew technique is probably pretty in the ballpark of what will give you a really great cup on this grinder and these coffees. So I'm letting this heat back up. I want 100 Celsius for this coffee and the melodrip. And let me get to the chat. Anyone here from Singapore? I know there are a lot of people from the Singapores in at least on the Discord. There are also a bunch of people in SEA, as always. There are always SEA people. So let's see if I can do this right the first time. And if anybody, because I'm going to put this as a VOD. I think that's we'll cut this out and we'll put this on the channel as an actual thing. Here, might zoom the camera in. Let me see if I can position it so you guys can see overhead. And hopefully the camera doesn't die because it's heating up. Here, this is the strategy. Okay, I'm moving you guys right here. I'm gonna try to lift the camera up. Actually, we also have the ability to lower the table. So maybe we'll lower the table a little. This is the ultimate setup. The problem is I have my motorized Pharos down here and the Pharos is very tall. Here we go. Advanced technology. Let's see. We don't need the overhead camera when we have this ability. I'm trying to charge up this fan so I can cool the camera down because I'm using a fat camera right now. Look at the production quality on this stream. It's crazy. Something off. The stream died for like 2 seconds. My B. Okay, cool. Here, let me actually pull this fucking grinder out of the way so I can lower the table more so you guys can see stuff. So this is why I never run the table that low here. Like, this is just a standing desk because this motorized Pharos gets in the way. See the shit? You seen the shit? Okay, here we go. This is the technology, and I can lower this. Wow, okay, very low desk. Here, wait, we got to make the tripod taller. There we go. Oh my god. This is so low. Usually I have like the camera thing, but we're not doing that right now. Okay, so how do you do melodrip? Let's find out. I'm gonna learn some things. So I ground at 52. Let's see what that looks like. You know, that's like pretty fine. And the thing with the melodrip, and let me get another cup. I'll be back. So the thing with this is, how does water kind of flow through here? So again, as I was mentioning, here, we already can move this out of the way. I'll use this as an example so you guys can quickly take a look. Is water flows through this, and then water can also kind of get into here. So, but like if you're trying to go for like maximum temperature, you know, you can see kind of how water like pools up at the top there. So again, I was mentioning you can do two different things. You can control the distance. Like, see, I can go up here. I can go closer to the bed. Like, imagine this is the bed of coffee down there. I can do that. I also can pour around. I hope the camera is seeing that, right? Like, here, we'll do it this way. Like, I can pour at different areas of this, and the water goes out at different kind of sections. I also can move the melodrip. So let's see. We might need to brew a few different cups just to like nail this down. But as what I can do is I can go like this. I can go like this, get closer, get higher. And all of this changes the agitation, and you'll essentially see, maybe I should have used like a clearer V60, but you probably will see kind of like some level of manipulation of fines. Like, you should see the grounds get pushed everywhere. And I think that's the kind of like, you know, fun thing with the melodrip. And, you know, hopefully you get a very tasty cup. But you know, if you just think about it, like, let's not even like look at numbers or like think about, like, you know, just basically you think about it. This is going to provide a very different cup than just pure kettle agitation, right? Like, the way the water is hitting the bed is going to be different. And if you think about like, how does coffee brewing work? The way the water touches the coffee and how it touches the coffee changes how it will taste, because that is just the reality with this. So yeah, this is pretty fine. Oops. Did I not pour? Why do I 13.5? Did I misweigh? I might have misweighed something. Let me pour some more coffee in here. But yeah, like, that is pretty fine. You know, I think that's pretty fine. A little finer than what I would probably use myself. But that's the kind of thing with this this type of setup. So like, you can kind of get away with grinding very fine because you can change where the grounds are. So let me get my 1.5 grams back. Okay, 15.2. So imagine this was 15 grams. So I think for the first pour, so this is the kind of thing with this, is you can combine all of these things, right? You can say, I can do direct kettle agitation for the beginning. I can use this at the beginning. It's very fun. That's You know, this is why like the melodrip stuff and all this stuff is just fun to use. So I think we'll just do melodrip for all of them. But basically, it's going to be, we're going to target the same ratios. We're going to target, in this case, 1 to 17. So 15 to 255. But all of my pours, I'm going to pour with this. So here we go. And I'm going to do 60 gram bloom. So the thing is with this is, see, I can move it around. I can change the distance in which I pour. I hope the camera's seen this, but with this, you want to, with the stick, you guys can see it, is you kind of want to like push things around. But yeah, like it's the same thing with like wet WDT, where I can, you know, go in, I can agitate like this, I can push the grounds around, but you're not going to tear a paper filter with something like this. This is now, I've made the bed very ugly. And I don't know if the camera is actually focusing on this. So, but yeah, like, you know, you can push things around. And essentially this is like what helps you, you know, agitate the bed. Is it going to focus? Nice. Okay, I think I got the camera to only focus on there. So there we go. And then kind of go around here. So I like to do like around together, but it doesn't like matter too much. You know, that's the nice thing. So I can change the distance of the bed. I can change the distance of this from the bed. I also can get very extended brew times with this. So I'm pouring relatively fast because I'm like very used to pouring fast, but I'll show you guys how slow you can pour. And this is a very forgiving brewing experience. But I'm going to let the water drain all the way through. So this is quite different than my pouring patterns, which is like 130, and then one pour at 1 minute, 130, you pour another pour. You know, you guys have seen my V60 recipe. I do this. Is dying. Okay, I'll have to do this again. But you can see like the water gets clearer as you do this. And that's the kind of thing with all of this is we get like this clearer bed. Okay, hold on. We have technical difficulties as usual. Let me... But like in here, I can, so imagine I just did a lot of pours. I'm gonna need to redo this because the camera died. Absolute tragedy. But yeah, basically that's how you do it. While the camera was dying, I was like redoing stuff, but essentially, yeah, you'll end up with this like much more extended brew time. And because of how you pour, it pushes a lot of like the bad stuff, right? In this case, you have these fines here, and I'm running this at 60 RPM. So it's like, you could even grind it finer. A lot of that gets pushed like up. And I could have always like did the swirl. I could have done, there's like a lot of things I could have done. So yeah, that is like how you do it. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. But you end up with this type of coffee, of cup, which, let me taste it. But it's probably going to be like very, you know, it's like it's a very different style of coffee. We're going to redo it. We'll do it again, guys. The camera always dies. But yeah, it's like, this is at least how I brew this style of coffee. You know, like, there's no right and wrong way to do this. Oh, you know, I can get the, you guys can see me if I use the power of the webcam that is on my laptop, because my laptop has a webcam. And you guys can see this like terrible camera setup that I have here. How do I change this? I'm lighting it as cool. So yes, the entire like idea of this. Now I'm in the way here. Okay, look at this beautiful camera setup. So yeah, that is here. We have brewed the coffee, and now I'll taste it. I guess I can always move this out of the way. So this is that setup. We got all these cables and shit everywhere. I could just use like an easier setup, but you know, this is what I'm using right now. So, this is what I'm going to taste now. Is this still using the right setup? Okay, great. So, very different style of brew. And taste it now. Yeah. So, this to me, you know, very, very sweet up front, very harmonious, brew. And then you're letting that acidity kind of like peek through. The thing is like, I feel like I could grind this even finer, right? Like you can push so close. You can push like extended ratios. You can push things so far out that it's pretty crazy, right? And that's like the fun thing with this type of brewing. So I'm gonna brew this again, just because the camera died, and we'll try this again. It's very nice. It's just like super balanced, very sweetness forward. So this is a very different type of brew than something like column. So I think the thing is when we taste something like column versus melodrip v60, melodrip v60 to me is definitely, you get that slight not complaint about V60, but basically the thing with V60 is that acidity is like searingly clear at times, and it's not like as tied together. It's not as, there's not a lot of weight to the acidity. That's what I'm experiencing here, where I get acidity, I get the harmonious brew, I get the clean, it's very clean, and it's pushed out, it's balanced. It's, I would argue, very sweetness forward. Very different than my recipe, which is very acidity forward. Column is the weightier acidity that you can get out of something like, you know, your flat bottom brewers or something like your Pulsar, but it has the V60 dynamic. It has that like slightly pushed up more acidity, less harmony related. So that's kind of like the initial thing here. I would say that this coffee, by the way, is Barrio, David Barrio. And I'll switch to this camera, we'll brew it again. But yeah, I'm using boiling for all of this. That's the thing, is like, with this, I could do so many different versions of agitation. But we'll redo this. And we'll cut all the VODs together. We'll pretend nothing happened. We'll pretend the camera didn't die. But I plugged this fan in, so this camera overheats a lot. But this does taste really good. Like, to me, this is a very good cup. It just is not as interesting as I think it could be. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, this still does have some of that pushed up acidity that the V60 gets you, but it's like super harmonious. The notes are very tied together and largely sweetness forward. So that's kind of the bigger difference, is this is more like sweetness forward. It's basically like sweetness forward, then you get the acidity, versus acidity forward that then finishes into sweet. So that's kind of just like the taste notes difference. In my experience, at least brewing my V60 versus this. I'm gonna brew another one just for additional demonstration purposes. But yeah, this is just like, you know, we're using the same brewer that we use. We are just, you know, changing the dynamics, right? A lot of the things I think I nowadays with my brewing approaches and just thought process on brewing is just dynamics, man. It's not like one is definitely better than another. It's just a different presentation, different dynamics. Do you want more of one property or another property? Like, what do you basically want to happen in the cup, right? So to me, that's more like, you know, I've been chasing this acidity forwardness, right? I want acidity up front. That's what makes these coffees interesting to me, is the acidity. However, some people may want sweetness, right? So the list goes on what properties, you know, to chase. So let's redo that again. Let's brew another cup and we will go from there. This is a great coffee to wake up with. Very tasty cup. Very sweet. Wow. This is a very strong coffee. All right, let's bring the camera back. Whoop. So, all right, the melodrip V60 recipe. So I already have some of this coffee in here. The dose, again, is 15 grams. I think I only need about 13 here. I'm just gonna brew the same coffee. Or, oh, let's do a different coffee. I think a different coffee would be good. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of this Barrio that I sacrificed. Tragedy. This is like, this recipe is very, very strong for a lot of coffees where you want definition. So, for example, this is a really great coffee. This is Esmeralda, Hacienda La Esmeralda. You know, you have these flavor notes. You have jasmine, lavender, orange blossom, peach, bergamot. With my recipe, you definitely will get those more like brighter notes up front. Like, that is what you should experience. You know, all of these coffees, right? You should just experience that acidity up front. However, with this type of recipe, which we will do, what we're going to end up with is a lot of those kind of extra flavor notes, the extra sweetness, the extension of flavor notes, and less louder acidity notes. So that's kind of the bigger difference, is like, this is going to be very sweetness forward. My recipe, which is dump water very, very fast, is going to be very acidity forward. So quite different. And I think this is really strong for some of these coffees. Like, let me get back here. Where is Kayon Hill? I have the coffee, I lost the card. This is Pepe. I have this coffee in front of me. I was looking for the card. I don't know where the card went. Oh, actually, let's do this coffee, guys. So let's do this coffee. So like this is a great example of this. Let me repeat myself. So this is kind of the thing with this melodrip recipe on v60. It's going to give you a very different profile, a very different presentation than my recipe, which is, I'd argue, very acidity forward. This recipe with melodrip is very, I would say, sweetness forward. But the dynamics and presentation are very different. So I want to show this off real quick. This is supposed to be a very strong coffee. This is a washed churroso from Colombia, which we've been drinking churrosos on the stream. But if you look at these flavor notes, you can see, what does it say? What do these notes say? These are notes that you can get on a cupping table, right? You grind the coffee, you put it in a cupping table. It's a very harmonious presentation of the coffee. You're gonna get like, look at, like there are like 3 flavor notes on here. With my recipe, you 100% can probably get the first 2, which is, what does he say? Ripe pineapple, bright acidity. There's a hops note, but this hops note with my recipe probably won't be as present. With something like this, a very transparent, stretched out brew, where you want the dynamics of the coffee to shine, you probably will get the hops at the end. Like you'll get kind of this extension of flavor notes, like the more transparent cup. That's what you should be able to get with these coffees. And I think that to me is like the biggest difference in the cup is like, if I'm brewing my recipe, I'm like, oh, I can see some of these flavor notes. But to really get, all of them, right? To hit all the notes on the bag, I think that's really where these more transparent recipes come into play. So we're gonna open this up because I know some of you guys got this coffee in and it is supposed to be very strong. So again, recipe, ooh, smells really nice. So again, recipe is 15 grams. And I'm gonna grind pretty fine, like finer than what I think should be allowed, because you can get away with so much stuff. But I'm also using the X-Spoon grinder so you guys can like get some amount of calibration. But this is, I'm just grinding at 52. So this seems to be like a pretty strong point to grind at. Pre-wet this filter. And let me see if I can get like a clear carafe so we can see. And let's try to get the camera to focus this time, and it won't die. All right, we got the big boy carafe. Here we go. Is that too tall? Now this is too tall. All right, swatch. We'll use it. We'll use the shorter. We'll use a shorter thing. Here we go. All right. So let's try to do a version of this where you guys can see and I'm still able to read the scale and still able to pour water on the coffee. Very complex task at hand. And let me set this camera to manual focus so we can all see the same things here. Okay. Oh, we're bumping things. Is it now out of focus? Here we go. messed around with the camera settings. All right, this is a VOD. So I have my 15 grams here. Relatively fine grind, I would say. You know, like we're not really seeing that much chaff. It's pretty pulverized. I have a little more than 15, but that's fine. And with the melodrip, what you can do is you can preheat it, of course. And I like to kind of just, you know, pour some boiling water onto it. Heat it up, make sure it's ready to go. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do a 60-gram bloom. So this is just a slightly different, variation of my recipe, but instead of we doing the kettle agitation, we're doing melodrip. Go, pour 60. And I can move this around and make sure all the coffee bed is saturated, and I can go in here and I can kind of just like push the grounds in, right? Like we basically can make sure that the grounds on the side are pushed in. I hope the camera can see that. But I would say with a recipe like this and just in general, like I am so like not, bed visuals are fine. Like it's not gonna look pretty. But wow, this coffee smells quite amazing. So this is this coffee. John Alexander Bermudez, late harvest. And I do want these coffees to open up for about a minute. Like I do want them to bloom. And then you gotta make sure the kettle's at 100. And then you can pour it a little slower. But as you see here, I'm kind of going around to make sure that everything is kind of touched. I'm going to 170, around 170. And you can see that I can vary the distance, and I can also vary kind of the angle, and I also have control with the kettle itself to pour pouring speed and pouring distance, which I just added a little more of that. So yeah, that's kind of the cool thing with this is you have control over the height, gives you different agitation. But as you already see here, you kind of can see the bed of water. It might be hard to see in the video. It will get clearer and clearer, and you'll get very extended brew times. Like basically with this, you should just let the bed of water almost fully drain out. So you can see like it's gonna almost fully drain out. I'm gonna then start adding more, and I'm just targeting my 270, and I'm kind of just like going around here. And I am pouring like relatively high agitation. So go 257. And what I can do here is obviously I can swirl and tap, but I have found if you just let this guy sit, it will be fine. And that's the thing with this lower agitation stuff is you'll see kind of like the bed of water get clearer and clearer. I am using the Cafec T90s, so the drawdown time, or at least the flow, is quite constant. And what you should see is you should see the fines get pushed around. Like if I zoom in, if I wanted to make this bed look prettier, what I could have done is obviously I could have swirled and tapped there, but obviously I'm trying to show you guys something. So you can see that the fines here, right, they still get pushed around, and that is gonna have less time touching the coffee. But that's also the thing with a recipe like this is, and with something like melodrip is it just feels like you can get away with so much stuff, right? We do so many things that like we can grind finer and all that. But oh yeah, and then on the timer, right, we finished at around like 330 something. It's a much longer extended brew. Right, you can totally like brew into these like 4 to 5 minute brews and maybe even longer, and they should taste completely fine. And that's the interesting thing with a recipe like this. But really, it's the ratio, like, being able to push into 1 to 17 plus easily. Like I definitely could have pushed into 1 to 18 with a grind. Like we grind on the Extreme Studio. I don't like the Extreme Studio at above 1 to 17, but I can push above 1 to 17 and it should taste fine. But yeah, if you see here, right, if you look at the bed, you see the fines on the side of the paper filters. I mean, this is a relatively low fines grinder because we're grinding at 60, but all of the bad stuff, because we are grinding much finer than what I would grind if I was doing it by hand, without melodrip. We can get away with doing something like this, and it should taste okay. So that is the recipe, and now I'm going to taste it. Obviously, we're doing it on a live stream, so things are not the cleanest. But this is how you do this recipe. And you just want to be careful when you use the melodrip stick because it's made of glass. Just don't want to break anything. So I'm going to switch you guys over to my webcam and we're going to taste this coffee. It's going to be magical. All right. Cool. Well, I think it still uses this mic here. Hello. Now, I'm going to taste this coffee, and I'm going to let you know if it tastes any good. But this is probably going to be like, my variation on this recipe is just to basically say, look, this is a very different presentation than my regular recipe, which is like dump a shit ton of water very, very fast. So, let's go ahead and taste this. And I've heard a lot of really great things about this coffee. John Alexander Bermudez, Late Harvest, Wash Churroso. Yeah, and we have a bunch of things. All right. It smells great. So here is this brew. And I'm gonna taste it. It smells really great. This is the thing, is like, this is gonna be a transparent presentation. It's going to be quite different. Hopefully quite different. It's gonna taste great. I've not caught up on chat at all. Okay, so here is Churroso brewed with the melodrip setup. Very harmonious, very balanced, very clean. The acidity is really shifted more towards like the middle and the back. But it's very clean. And that's the type of it's just different, right? It's like at this point in time with coffee brewing, I'm just more of like, what is different, right? Is it better? It probably isn't better. And everybody has their own personal preferences. But the basic thing is, if you just look at how long the water is touching the coffee, it's gonna taste different, right? It's also how you pour water on the coffee is gonna taste different, right? The type of agitation is quite different. Right, is like, that's the thing, I use the word different because it is different. It's not necessarily better. But again, this is the presentation where, for me, I'm getting a lot of sweetness up front. Like, the initial thing that's hitting me is like some level of sweetness, and then it's the acidity, and the acidity is happening much more towards the middle and the back. So really, it's not really like acidity forward. So it's just a different presentation of how to brew, and how to brew the washed light roast coffees with something like melodrip. And that's the kind of thing is, you have a different way of presenting coffee with one brewer. And this is still, a filtered brew. It's still a higher bypass V60 style brew, but it just tastes different, right? The dynamics are really what's interesting. So I think that's fun, right? You take the same coffee, you brew with my recipe, you know, you just take the same coffee, you brew it with different recipes, and you experience things, right? You're like, what does it do here versus what does it do here? And I think that's kind of the biggest thing with this. But this is tasting great. Yeah. So this to me is like, there is kind of, again, sweetness, then acidity. And I'm getting like basically the extension of flavor notes. Like I'm getting like all the different other additional flavor descriptors. And I think that's what's fun with this recipe. However, personally speaking, I don't like this recipe that much versus my recipe, versus like direct high flow kettle agitation. Mainly just because of just how I'm into coffees nowadays, which is like I want to be punched in the face with battery acid. This to me is very different. It's a different style, right? It is punch in the face with sweetness versus punch in the face with acidity. Then you get kind of, they're flipped, right? That's the entire thing, is that the dynamics in the cup are quite flipped. And that's what's fun. So yeah, that is melodrip v60 low agitation recipe that I just wanted to show off because I think it's fun, right? It's not better. I don't think any of these recipes in today's landscape are better. They're different, and to me, the recipe that I formed for V60 was really formed around my first experiences going to the Say Cafe, which was like, whoa, acidity forward coffees. Nowadays, I think a lot of people want harmony, at least, at Say. And, nowadays, I think like a lot of people are into experimenting with brewers, like low bypass brewers, zero bypass brewers, high extraction things that create very harmonious cups. So this is kind of this interesting thing where it's a different, it's just a different style, and it's fun. So yeah, that's this type of recipe. Hope that was interesting. Now, for those of you guys who are on the stream, I'm gonna switch this camera. We're gonna go back to the high quality video technology. We'll go back to me because we can do that. We will go back to the high quality camera, the high quality look. Everything has been shifted up because we lowered the table. Power of a desk that can, standing desk. So hopefully that is helpful for anybody who wanted to learn how to do something, which, trust me, right? I know what I'm doing. Here we go. Okay, let me switch you guys back to this camera. Cool. So yeah, that's how you do it. Very complex. What are people saying? Did I brew the Esmeralda? Column oh god, okay, all right. Column versus melodrip. Column versus melodrip S-Works, I think they taste very different. I mean, S-Works is a flat bottom, and S-Works you can steep. Esmeralda, I haven't brewed Esmeralda yet. Ooh, maybe next week. It's a 9.9. I think we need to wait a little before we touch this coffee. And then let's see. Do you still have that vintage Cremita? I had it yesterday, and I gave it back to my friend who left it here for like 2 years. When am I coming to Malaysia? If you have a place to house me and you pick me up from the airport, I'll show up. That's like probably what I'm gonna do with some of these, some of the Filipino guys in the Discord is, yeah. We're gonna roll into PH. Yeah. So this recipe, when you really let it cool down, very harmonious. Like when I'm saying harmony, I'm saying a lot of things are very tied together. You could interpret this as balance. To me, it is just basically everything you experience in the cup is just like, tied together in some form. And it's overall very sweet. I'm using my fingers. It's overall very sweet. You're getting acidity kind of after the sweetness, but everything's like very tied together. and you get acidity kind of peeking through. You're getting the dynamics because of the coffee rather than from the dynamics of the brew, right? Like how you pour water on coffee will impact the dynamics. So like this Barrio that I brewed earlier that's cooled down, still sweetness, but now that it's really cooled down, the acidity is starting to really peek through. But it is not acidity forward, and I think that is what is different about this, right? It's not acidity forward, it's very transparent, it's very harmonious. I know a lot of people like this style of coffee over acidity forward. And we're drinking the same coffee here, but it's the dynamics are quite different. And I think that's the kind of, fun thing with brewing, and the fun thing with the melodrip, and the fun thing with pour recipes is they are all different presentations. But I really, nowadays I wouldn't really say like there is, A is better than B. I would just say they're different nowadays. And personally, I still prefer very acid forward cups with the very high kettle agitation rather than this style of brew. But this is the other style of brew, and you may prefer something different, and that's the magic of coffee brewing. Okay, yeah, DM me. I don't know my travel plans for something like Malaysia. I've never been before. I also don't know what like the passport situation is like. I might brew on the column now because I just brewed on melodrip. So we can do a quick comparison: melodrip v60 versus column. It's going to be very different. These are just like basically here, can you guys... Oh, I think I need to move the camera this way. Here we go. Melodrip V60 is what we were brewing earlier. We can now do melodrip column. And I still like a lot of these coffees 1 to 17. So maybe let's brew this churroso, because I've been sipping on this coffee and I'm like, wow, this is quite impressive. Actually, we've only been brewing churrosos this entire stream. I think also we'll do Esmeralda and we'll do Pepe another day. Oh wow, I'm impressed. I gotta text Lance about this one. That's not bad. Quite nice. This is, gonna get you closer. These low bypass extended brews, they're gonna get you closer to V60. No, they're gonna get you closer to something like cupping without you having to actually cup. In terms of levels of transparency. And I'll keep the grind size the exact same. So I've been grinding, should we do Barrio? Actually, no, let's do, I have so many coffees as usual. I just noticed. I forgot the sticker. Okay. Well, we'll brew the Bermudez again. Churroso. So, but with column, we do want to have a larger dose. So we get the column. We'll get the column set up. The column is here. Let me think about dosages. I've spent basically the entire stream so far making a tea water recipe and brewing some green tea, but looking for. I think, you know, like that's the thing with with this like super harmonious brewing style is that it is like a weekly brewed tea if you think about it, in terms of, you know, where we're pushing some of these coffees. I'm like, you know, just like this is like weak Lipton, right? And that's why I was like, yeah, you know, you get like higher levels of acidity with some of these coffees than my experiences, at least with tea. Tea people might hate that statement. Wow, this churros is great. Let me think about some dosages for this. Anyway, we'll brew with the column. The recipe that we were doing with at Say, and we were doing on the other stream the other day, was 23. But I think we can do 18. Because basically we just want to make sure we're able to add enough water to keep the flow very constant. Or let's do 20. Yeah, I think 20 seems good for this. And let's keep the grind the same. I'm going to see how hard we can push this. But because we're grinding on X Flume at 60, it should be okay, I think. Let's get the column set up. Let me remember how to set up the column. We have the instructions. So you want to fold. Paper filter. Look how cute this is. Tiny paper filter. And let's put this in here. We could put this in the Pepe v60, but we'll use the, we'll just use the regular setup. Oh, I am already blanking. I think I needed this ring. Lol. Like our little ramen setup. Okay. And then let's try get the seal. I think I need a little more water. And I am just going to use boiling, because that is the greatest temperature to use, right? I'm not the most sensitive to like astringency. Okay, so here we go. Get the column. Push it in. Get the seal. Seems to be fine. Yep. So yeah, that feels sealed in there. Set that to the side. All right. This thing actually gets pretty hot. I only poured a little bit of water to preheat, and it feels like it's pretty warm. But we're brewing the churroso that we're brewing with the v60 melodrip versus we're gonna do a combination of. Well, I'm just gonna brew the recipe I was brewing with all these other guys, so we'll see how that compares. So that's a combination of melodrip and physical agitation and color agitation. So it's like all the techniques, all the tricks. My dose is 20, and I'll go to the same ratio. So with this, you don't want to shake it. I know for me, the first thing when I was using this was I'm so used to just shaking the brewer. But instead it's recommended you take the stick, and this is what we'll do for leveling the bed. But I mean, it doesn't matter too much because the thing is water is going to be touching the column. Yeah, your water is going to definitely be touching coffee in some sort of way. And yeah, well, let's hope we set it up correctly, and hopefully things are going to be good. Here we go. I'm going to see the column here. So I'll tell you guys the numbers. Anyway, this is 100. I'm going to do 100. Yeah, 100, and then 120, and then 120. But 100 is direct kettle, and then 120, the next 120s are all with this guy. And we'll do some manual agitation with some of these tools. We're brewing this coffee. Waiting for the kettle to heat up. I'm not used to brewing this much coffee. Like the doses is so big. Okay. So I'm pouring to 100. And then I'm going to get in here, and I'm just going to do some amount of agitation. And I can get into the actual V60 bit because this is the waffle leaf, so it lets me get into there. And I'm gonna let this sit for a minute, but actually if you guys take a look at this, the flow is very constant. I'll let that bloom. But yeah, wow, look. Smells good. So you definitely can hit like very extended brew times with a brewer like this, and it should still taste quite nice. 1 minute. You know, you can preheat things like the melodrip, right? We can preheat it a little, get it warmer. But I'm just gonna go to 120. If you use something like melodrip lift, it is 100% more consistent than you pouring. But this is what was kind of happening on the V60 when I was brewing it, is you can kind of see it get the column of water. When I was saying like, oh, when you how you can tell you're doing it right is you're seeing the water at the top get clearer and clearer. So you're seeing this like percolation effect happening. I think that's the right word. And with this, because you can only sit, you can only fit. Oh my god, I can't talk right now. You can only fit so much water in the column. You just need to be careful with how much you add, but also you have to make sure you add enough water to maintain the flow in the column, because you need, you're using the power and the weight of gravity here to maintain the flow. Okay, there it is. I poured a little more, 346. So actually, it's quite close to our ratios on the V60. But you can see the liquid gets clearer and clearer and clearer. And that's like just, I mean, that's a visual indicator if you're doing things correctly. Yeah, the leaf is nicer if you're using cone-shaped brewers because you can get in there without tearing the paper filter. But, I don't know. It's fun. You know, brewing is fun. Dropping phones. Like, that's the whole thing with all of this, is like, it's a different way to brew coffee. It's a different presentation. Is it better? It's up to you to decide. But if you're very specifically into low bypass brews and you're into that style of coffee, this is a different version of that, right? Like, at this point in time, all of these brews all do the same thing. Like, they have to hold the water in some sort of way for low bypass. The difference is, like, you know, down to, is it valved or is it in a dinky little V60? But yeah, I mean, it's totally, I don't know. I think the coffee tastes really good on this, and I mean, I think it's just like any of these brewers, like, oh, you just gotta get used to how it is. For sure, cleanup is the strongest part on this for this type of brewer. Like, the cleanup on this is so easy. Take the column off. It creates a little puck. And then this filter just comes out. I'm gonna do this over a trash can. So for sure, like, this gives you the same level. Like, our brew time is like over 4 minutes, I think. Right? This for sure gives you that V60. I mean, not V60, but like, you know, you just kind of like shake it and it comes out. I don't need a sink or anything, right? And I get, you know, I can put dumb high extractions, which is cool. So if you're into the harmonia, if you're into like high extraction, low bypass, you get this and you get the pulsar. You have everything. You have both presentations. You can make the clearest cup possible, and you can also make a very dynamic cup as well, like a very clear but dynamic cup. So this was the churroso I brewed earlier with just the V60 with bypass. So basically what we should taste difference are, you know, here are the differences. Oh my God. Is like bypass versus 0/low bypass, right? Like, what is the biggest flavor difference? And I think it's still just extraction levels. It's going to be like the strength of everything. So this is like very like this is just like tasting things back to back. Cause I think this is what most people are going to do at home, is like, if you get these things, you're going to try like, what is the difference between this and this? So V60 melodrip, really sweet, really harmonious cup. There is some acidity is really pushed back in the back for me, but incredibly clean and sweet. It is round, which is interesting. And the notes are tied together, but there's like a little bit of thinness here and there, like a little bit of thinness. And that's the kind of thing with V60. If you brew like a very high transparency V60, even with something like the melodrip, you get definition. Like, we're talking like there's no A, B, C, and D. Like, it is like that. And it is tied together, like slightly tied together. I don't know, I'm using my hands, but it's like slightly tied together with the V60 melodrip. But we are tasting, you know, bypass, right? Like, that is like, I think that is what it does give a little bit of that thinness that some people dislike. And then that's why they want to go to, like, you know, low bypass, like the column. Spit it out. Drank too much coffee. So that is in here. This is the V60, and then this is the column. Same coffee. Dosages are slightly different. Brew times are actually decently similar. But like, yeah, you probably don't want to use the exact same recipes on all of these coffees or all these, you know, these brewers. But here, this was the difference. Is we had these two. Mmm. That's interesting. Let me actually get 2 cups. Let me get 2 of the same cups, and we'll taste V60 together and versus column. So melodrip V60 versus column. I do think these are things that most people should be able to pick out the differences. But here we go. Melodrip V60 versus column. So melodrip V60 here. And I'm not measuring attractions or anything. I'm just tasting because I think that's what most people are going to do at home. You're going to go and taste the coffees. You're going to buy your new brewer, and then you're going to taste it, and you're going to be like, is anything different? So here we go. Actually, let me let this guy cool down. So let's do V60 melodrip first, which is this one. And this is still this coffee is quite amazing. So that's the thing, is we're using really great coffee, you're using really great grinder. It's like, you know, it doesn't matter as much. Okay. It's really nice. That's also really nice. That's the thing, they're both great. So here's the biggest difference that at least I'm observing is the style is quite similar. It's that harmonious style, still very quite sweetness forward, but the dynamics are louder in the low bypass. And that's the thing, is like, you might not like that actually. Actually, let me taste this again, because I do feel like some people might not like this as much as this. I quite like this column brew. So the styles are quite similar, but because we're running V60 versus, you know, zero bypass, right? The weight and definition and complexity of acidity is not, it doesn't linger as long. And the acidity is just generally heavier. There's like, it feels like I'm getting a little more depth into the acidity. I mean, I'm getting all the flavor notes. Like on both of these brew methods, melodrip V60 versus column, definitely I'm getting all the flavor notes that this coffee will probably exhibit when you're cupping it. But that's the fun thing with brewing, right? Is like, it's the dynamic presentation. But we kind of are brewing these in a similar way, where I think the actual dynamic, like the actual presentation of both of these is very similar. Like we're doing, you know, we do a first pour, we do manual agitation, we then do 2 melodrip pours. Same thing here. The difference is the bypass, right? It's like the column, right? There's no column on this, there's a column on this. And the brew time is a little longer on this. Dose was a little higher, but much like, just, there's a lot of weight to this acidity. So this is like heavier, like everything. So this is the general thing with something like, if you brew an S-Works stripper, you know, your flat bottoms, your low bypass flat bottoms, is that generally speaking, acidity is much heavier. Is like there's like oomph to it, like a punchiness to the acidity. There's, you know, juice, as we would call it. Where the just the first one, the melodrip v60, the presentation between these two are very similar, but the melodrip v60 acidity is a little more like subtle, a little more like delicate. This, I would argue, is pretty strong already. Like honestly, both of these, like I don't know, I think both these cups are really, really good. But this is kind of that difference between low bypass and no bypass, right? Like basically like A versus B. And I think this is like what most people are going to do at home, right? You're gonna try. You get the new brewer. You're gonna try it versus this one. Everybody has a V60, mostly speaking. And this is quite interesting to do this comparison side by side. Now, I think if you prefer depth of acidity, this is like it right here. This melodrip V60, this is still more like delicate. It's I mean, you know, it's like so tea-like. I mean, it's more tea-like. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, let me taste this again real quick. This is fun. I have not actually done a comparison like this before with two very, very similar, like this. These are quite similar if we really think about it. So there's that layer of sweetness I was mentioning before. This style of brew, definitely, you know, layer of sweetness right into the acidity, and then you get that like kind of dynamic V60 acidity. It's tied together, like sweetness is tied together to the acidity, then it finishes sweet. Linger is really nice. I would be very happy with this versus this. Same exact presentation, man. Like basically exactly the same presentation, but there's ever so slightly more depth, like weight of acidity. Like it's louder, it's more vibrant, and the linger, it's lingering more. The acidity seems to linger longer, and then it finishes nice and sweet and round, versus this one doesn't have that linger of acidity. It kind of transitions, like, you know, very harmoniously into like a round and sweet profile. This does that same thing, but the acidity is just like more. Wow, who knew? These are the like, if you do this at home and you play around with low bypass versus no, you know, you do this at home, you play with bypass versus no bypass. It's magic. They taste different. There you go. All right, that's the magic of column brew. They both taste really good. Like you know, at this point in the game, for I think most of you guys, like you guys all have good equipment, good coffees, good water. Now it's just like, what is different, right? Like you want to explore things that just change the cup enough. Like this, I think you could totally pick out blind, or you get this feels like something that you need to calibrate your palate to. Like you have to get used to this type of presentation. Like if you've only been used to this, like I'm talking like no, like just regular V60, no mellow drip, this is going to taste very different. And you know, but if you taste them side by side, I do think that the differences are kind of like quite subtle at times, especially with some of these like louder and clean coffees where it's like they are loud in nature with the acidity. But I think like once you use this a lot and you live with it, I do think that if you go side by side, like, you know, I'm doing a quick side by side comparison on this stream here. I do taste a difference, and I mean, I know which one's which, but like, you know, it's just fun. And I think at this point in time, like for people who are looking for just another brewer to add, which you may enjoy, this is pretty fun. I actually like this has again solved a lot of the problems that I personally have with these you know, with these like super high extraction, harmonious, high clarity brewers, like the zero bypass brewers, is that I just think like they were, you know, they were losing some of that. They didn't have some of that the dynamics, or like, you know, the messed upness, right? The cone, right? We didn't get those cone properties in here. Now we get the cone properties in the zero bypass brew, and I think that's fun, right? But, you know, I can get these two to taste relatively similar, especially with the melodrip. So maybe that's just how I specifically am brewing these, where I'm basically doing the exact same recipe on both of these, and I'm just tasting the differences. But to me, they both taste really good. So that's interesting. Hope that was interesting to you all. But yeah, I think we will probably get off. Maybe we'll get back on tomorrow. But we definitely should brew Esmeralda. I really want to brew Esmeralda, guys. And I want to brew the Pepe. So we'll see if we can get some of the guys here. Maybe next week. Maybe, well, I don't know what we'll do tomorrow. Maybe we'll do espresso tomorrow. Oh my fucking God, we'll do espresso tomorrow. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go and get some lunches and some other things. So yeah, hope that was fun. It has been a while since I've done melodrip v60. So that was fun. I was like, wow, I actually can still make melodrip v60, but it's just a different presentation. I'm probably gonna take that clip and upload it just on the channel. Just because I think these kind of like brewing guides are relatively helpful for people. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore about any of this. I'm just like, just pour water on coffee. It makes it taste good. So yeah, I'll catch you guys later. If you guys have anything else you want to talk about, you know, that's what the Discord's for. So go to the Discord, stop DMing me. Holy shit, guys. We spend all this time and effort to set up the Discord and build the community on the Discord, and people DM me. I'm like, you post it in there. We, the collective hive mind, will help you. Yeah, and then thanks everyone who has boosted the server. Guys are awesome. I need to, for those guys who boosted the server, I need to make another, like we basically have the privileges now of all the Discord technologies. So we probably will do some more like Discord only events instead of YouTube streams. Cause like, I don't really care on like which thing we stream on. But yeah. Do it, yeah, for the Pepe V60 stuff, just do my recipe. I think that's gonna get you like 90% of the way there, and then, you know, you can adjust further. Probably would not use my recipe for perk. Unless you want to taste a lot of roast. Don't use my recipe on perk. Especially that coffee, especially that decaf. That decaf is like gonna taste like charcoal if you use my recipe, or any of the recipes we've shown today. Don't do those recipes on that. So yeah, I will figure out some stuff for the guys who boosted the server. I probably will finally set up Discord memberships, because I know people have been asking about the memberships for a while. So or Patreon, but I don't know. There's like a million of these, but we have lots of things we can hand off to people, like these grinders, which you can barely see, and more. Yeah, but kind of want to do like a spring cleaning type of deal. So we'll do the giveaways and whatever. We'll figure it out, or maybe we'll just do everything next year, because this year I'm busy. So yeah, all right, guys. Thank you so much for spending the time to hang out on the stream. Maybe we will make 2 videos from this. We'll make the low bypass versus V60, bypass versus no bypass, and then melodrip video. So yeah, all right. I'll see you guys later.